Tring. What's up, everybody? This is going to be a walk and talk kind of blog. I'm at the range here at Adventures Archery in Tampa. I forgot my tripod and I did not anticipate how fatigued my shoulder was going to get holding the camera and shooting my bow at the same time. So this is going to be an interesting new style format. We'll see. Hopefully this video doesn't suck. Definitely going to be testing the in-body stabilization of my new Nikon Z5 camera. Not a sponsor, but Nikon. Not closed off to the idea. Easton Bowhunter 6.5 arrows. I originally recorded a review of these arrows almost a month ago. As I was editing that video, the whole premise and thesis of the video was that the Bowhunter 6.5s were the best out-of-the-box precision arrows you could possibly get on the market. And as I was editing that video, Easton released their whole 2021 lineup of arrows, which had a few tweaks, a couple new models. One that caught my attention, I think a lot of people's attention, is the new 4mm Axis long range arrow is what they're calling it. I saw those arrows at Total Archery Challenge. I was shooting one of the courses with one of the Easton engineers, and he was testing some of the prototypes. Those things look sweet. Definitely gonna be picking up a set of those. But the Bowhunter 6.5s, I still think they're gonna come in at a lower price point. Not sure what the new price points are yet. So I think it's still relevant and worth talking about because those arrows are still in the lineup and they have a couple of new colors and options for 2021. You know, my whole thing with these arrows, why I picked them up last year, was the components, just what they come with out of the box. There was no aftermarket additions that I felt had to be made. And in shooting them all year, Total Archery Challenge, hunting with them this fall, I still feel that way. These arrows are your blue collar precision arrows. These are for the guys and girls that wear Carhartts and Dickies and actually get them dirty. Now, in contrast to the Axis arrows, because the Bowhunters are a standard diameter arrow shaft, that allows you to run a standard collared insert and still use your standard 8/32 threaded broadheads and field points. This collared insert is thicker than most of the other inserts on the market. It almost looks like a half out, and I found that it holds up really, really well to impact. I've shot a bunch of small game with it, raccoons, iguanas. Obviously I got pass-throughs on all of those. Sent the arrows into dirt, a concrete retaining wall on more than one occasion, and didn't bust any arrows. No mushrooming, no significant damage. The arrows were ready to go again. When it comes to bigger game, I killed 2 deer with it. No damage to the arrows, rinsed them off. They were fine. I could easily use them again. The arrow that I sent into my black bear did get snapped in half, but that's because I put it into the bear's spine and the bear turned around and snapped that thing in half with his teeth. So I don't think that there's any arrow on the market that would have survived getting bit in half by a black bear. So overall, really impressed with that. My arrow setup, I'm running a 450-ish grain arrow. I'm running a 125 grains up front plus the 23 grain inserts. So with a 300 spine arrow and 4 fletch bully vanes on the back with a wrap, I'm getting about 12% F.O.C. for those of you that care. I personally don't. But that arrow combination at distance has grouped better than any other arrow that I've ran in the past. Now, I've got more testing to do, and some of the new arrows that come out, I'm going to be messing around more with that. But this arrow I found shooting Total Archery Challenge last year, I didn't miss any targets. I ran Axis arrows the year before at 2 events, and I missed more targets and made more bad shots with those arrows in less windy conditions than I did this year running these standard diameter shafts. And I outshot a lot of guys running much skinnier arrows. And I'm not saying that, you know, I'm an amazing shot or anything like that by any means. All I'm saying is I think it has more to do with the archer than the diameter of your arrow shaft, especially at hunting distances. I didn't feel shooting the knock-on and the Sitka courses, which were 2 of the more difficult courses at Total Archery Challenge this year. I shot the Utah event, and I didn't feel like my arrows were in any way holding me back. But I never, I just knocked my bow over. Are you okay, buddy? He's fine. Hopefully PSE is not going to ask for this bow back. Also testing out this little guy, which is the new KOTA thumb peg. It's a collaboration we're doing between KOTA and Quattro Archery. We'll have it out in January, so if you're watching this video January 2021 or after, check out the Knights of the Apex website or Quattro Archery website and pick one of these up. We'll have them available for the Carter releases, and yeah, they're awesome. Much more ergonomic, little cutout shelf right there for your thumb. Nice little index point, fully adjustable arm, so you can finally conform the, damn that motorcycle, so you can finally conform the trigger and the release to fit your hand versus trying to conform your hand to fit the release. So really happy with this design so far. So if you're not following Knights of the Apex or Quattro Archery, make sure you're doing that and stay up to date with when we officially release that. We'll have them in a whole bunch of different Cerakote options, so looking forward to that. Now there are of course certain trade-offs that and sacrifices you have to make. It's not just, you know, you go to a standard diameter arrow and it's stronger and it's going to be better than the micro diameter. There's a reason micro diameter arrows have become popular over the last couple years, mainly the increase in penetration and the decrease in drag because of the lower surface areas. Now personally, what I have found hunting and shooting, even what you can tell just shooting a simple foam target, is yes, the diameter of the arrow shaft matters, but it doesn't matter nearly as much when you put a broadhead on that arrow. If you are somebody that's really concerned with penetration, you're shooting a slower bow, you have shorter draw length, you know, whatever the case may be, the type of broadhead you put on the front of that arrow is going to have a much more drastic impact on your arrow penetration than the diameter of your arrow shaft. Unless you're hunting some crazy big game like moose or some of the African or Australian animals, hunting whitetails, right? If you're really concerned with penetration, go to a cut-on contact fixed blade head. Don't run a mechanical. End of story. You're going to get way more penetration with that than you would changing diameter arrow shafts or even going to a heavier arrow. Now onto the smallest and probably most overlooked component of any arrow, the nock. The nock is such a critical component of every single arrow, and it's something that I think most people overlook first when considering what arrow to get. I love the nocks that come standard on these Bowhunter 6.5 arrows. They're short, they're stiff, they're extremely consistent. You get a positive click with them. You know that they're securely on the string. One of the things that keeps me shooting Easton arrows is the fact that their nocks are so good and so consistent. This stupid little piece of plastic, it might seem ridiculous, but think about it. This tiny little surface area is absorbing all of the kinetic energy from that $1,000 bow that you purchased, right? If that is not consistent each and every time that arrow releases, your groups aren't going to be consistent. Nocks, nock fit, nock quality are as important, if not more important, than any other component or consideration on your arrow. And the nocks and the nock design on the Bowhunter 6.5s is absolutely phenomenal. And I've noticed that in a lot of the new lineups, or in a lot of the new offerings Easton's going to be releasing for 2021, the nocks look to be a very similar short, stiff design as are on the Bowhunter 6.5s, and that's something I'm really, really happy about because I love these freaking nocks. Now they won't stop you from busting one when you shoot your arrows together. I don't know how that wasn't a Robin Hood, but fantastic nocks. So yeah, that's my review. Those are my impressions of the Easton Bowhunter 6.5s. I mean, you know, it remains to be seen if these are going to stay in my quiver for 2021, but I think they're definitely my new go-to setup. Just very easy to set up, awesome components. As far as setup goes, I did a whole arrow build video where I talk about that, and I'll have a link to that above. But the short end of it is, when it comes to building these arrows, all I do is out of the package, I'll cut some of the material off of both ends to get them to the desired length, and then I don't do any sort of spine indexing or anything like that. Easton's arrow spines are extremely consistent throughout all of their arrow lineups. That's one of the reasons I continue to shoot Easton arrows as well. I'll square off both sides with an arrow squaring device, and then I'll just clean up the shafts, put my wraps and vanes on there, and I always use, when it comes to inserts, I always use the Easton epoxy to keep my inserts in there. And other than that, that's all I really do. I'll shoot a couple of groups. If I have a fly fire, I'll nock tune them. But honestly, you know, Easton might not like me saying this, but between the different options for the Bowhunter arrows that were out last year, I found that the classics, I was able to get these same groups and same exact performance out of them as I was out of the match grades. Easton sent me 24 match grade arrows and 24 classics, and I'm shooting them together right now, and I can't tell the difference. If it wasn't for the little gold band on there, you know, if you set them up right, if you build them right, you're not going to have any issues getting phenomenal performance. A plane. But if you set them up right, tune them right, you're not going to have any issues getting top-notch, top-quality performance out of the classics as you do the match grades. And I ran those classics at Total Archery Challenge too. I mean, there were some serious crosswinds on the knock-on course, especially at that Utah tack, and the arrows performed awesome. During hunting season, no complaints. They did a great job, pass-throughs on whitetails, and they did a hurting on my black bear, even though I made a bad shot. So, really impressive arrow. The blue collar arrow remains to be seen if they'll stay in my quiver for 2021. We'll see how some of those new offerings from Easton compare, but I think this is my new go-to arrow. They've officially knocked the Axis out of my go-to position, and when in doubt, I think I'll be running the Bowhunter 6.5s with 125 grain points. That's been the best setup that I've found out of my systems so far. So hope this helps somebody out. Get out there, practice, launch arrows, always be sending, and I'll see you guys next time.